tonight, as the subtle ping of a $150 dividend notification lights up my phone screen, I finally know what it means to sleep deeply. Exhibits inside my ledger tell a story that no courtroom in Travis County, Texas could ever process. Exhibit A, bank account statement, April 14th, balance $4.12, available credit $0, high interest debt ratio, catastrophic. Exhibit B, IRS Form 1099-INT and a certified letter stamped with urgent red ink demanding an immediate repayment of $18,600 in back taxes and early withdrawal penalties. Exhibit C, a digital paper trail of a single mother using forensic precision to dismantle her own economic death sentence, transforming a $0 initial capital structure into a resilient financial citadel with a growing net worth. My name is Annabelle Vance. Most people call me Annie. For 8 years, I worked as a forensic science technician for the Travis County Sheriff's Office in Austin, Texas. My world was defined by latex gloves, yellow crime scene tape, and trace evidence. I was trained to look at a microscopic speck of dust on a steering wheel and tell you where the driver had lunch 3 weeks ago. My mind was wired for absolute, uncompromising precision. I could map out a complex bloodstain pattern or preserve fragile DNA evidence without missing a single millimeter. Yet, despite my analytical capability, my personal financial structure was a catastrophic wreck. Austin was booming. Tech giants were flooding into the city, housing prices were skyrocketing, and inflation was devouring every single paycheck before the ink even dried. Beneath my crisp navy blue forensic uniform, I was drowning. A bitter, costly divorce had left me with $22,000 in lingering student loans and an $18,000 auto loan for a used SUV that squeaked every time I stepped on the brakes. I was raising my 6-year-old daughter, Chloe, entirely on my own. Chloe suffered from a severe, life-threatening peanut allergy. I lived in constant, quiet terror, but my financial illiteracy convinced me that as long as I kept my head down, worked my overnight shifts at the crime lab, and kept a few $100s in cash under my mattress, we were safe. I treated my money reactively, patching holes in a sinking boat with tape, while ignoring the massive hole at the bottom of the hull. Then, on a freezing Tuesday in January, the hull completely shattered. Chloe had an accidental exposure to trace peanut flour at an after-school program. Her throat closed in seconds. The frantic call from the school nurse froze the blood in my veins. I rushed her to the pediatric emergency room, my hands shaking so violently on the steering wheel that I nearly crashed. The doctors saved her life with adrenaline and round-the-clock monitoring, but when we were finally discharged 3 days later, the real nightmare began. The out-of-network hospital charges, emergency transport fees, and specialist bills bypassed my basic county health insurance entirely. Out-of-pocket balance due, $30,000. Panic is a blinding disease. When you are staring at a stack of unpaid medical bills while your checking account hovers around 2 digits, rational thought vanishes. I did what millions of financially uneducated Americans do when pushed against the wall. I made a disastrous, irreversible mistake. I logged into my county employee portal, navigated to my 401k retirement account, and executed an early liquidating transaction. I withdrew every single cent of my accumulated $30,000 balance to pay off the medical providers. I thought I was free. I thought I had solved the problem. Stop. Breathe. Tremble. Decide. I had no idea that the American tax system is engineered with brutal tripwires designed to punish the desperate. 3 months later, right in the heart of tax season, a thick envelope from the IRS arrived in my mailbox. Because I had withdrawn my 401k funds before reaching the age of 59.5, the IRS did not view that $30,000 as a mother saving her child. They viewed it as early ordinary income. The letter was cold and unyielding. The $30,000 was added directly to my base salary, pushing me into a higher tax bracket at a 22% federal tax rate. On top of that, they slapped on a mandatory 10% early withdrawal penalty. Combined with state-level administrative adjustments and processing penalties, the total tax liability due immediately was precisely $18,600. I had 60 days to pay. 60 days. If I defaulted, the consequences were absolute. The IRS stated in bold text that failure to settle the balance within the countdown window would result in an immediate administrative wage garnishment of up to 25% of my monthly police department salary. A tax lien would be filed, instantly nuking my credit score from a respectable 740 down into the dark abyss below 520, flagging me as a massive credit risk and causing an automatic loan default on my existing obligations. Worst of all, as a forensic technician handling confidential criminal evidence and court testimony, an active wage garnishment and a severely compromised credit score meant I would automatically lose my security clearance. Losing my security clearance meant immediate termination from the sheriff's office. I would lose my job, my health insurance, and my reputation, leaving me and Chloe homeless on the heated streets of Austin. I remember sitting on the cold kitchen tile that night, the IRS notice crumpled in my fist, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. The system was about to crush me, and I had handed it the hammer. The next morning, I called the IRS representative line, hoping for empathy. The voice on the other end was a wall of bureaucratic concrete. "Ma'am," the agent said with zero emotion, "the tax code does not contain hardship waivers for retirement account liquidation. You signed the agreement. The balance is $18,600. The clock is ticking." I hung up, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Panic, rage, despair, isolation. To make ends meet before this crisis, I had occasionally used my old cosmetology license, a skill I paid for during my college years, to blow dry and style hair for neighbors on weekends. I would pack a small bag, drive across town, and earn $30 a haircut. But earning $30 at a time against an $18,000 debt wall was like trying to drain the Gulf of Mexico with a plastic spoon. On day 10 of my 60-day countdown, I was assigned to inspect a high-value commercial theft at an industrial logistics facility on the outskirts of Austin. The warehouse belonged to Marcus, a 62-year-old retired supply chain logistics specialist who had quietly built a multi-million-dollar empire of automated commercial maintenance services. While I was meticulously laying down evidence markers, dusting the doorframe for latent fingerprints, and organizing my chemical swabs with extreme alignment, Marcus stood nearby, watching me. He didn't interrupt. He just observed the quiet, hyper-focused intensity of my movements.
When I finished packaging the samples, I stepped outside into the scorching 100-degree Texas air to take a sip of lukewarm water. Marcus walked over, holding 2 cold bottles of water. He handed me one and looked at my face. He didn't see just an officer. He saw the unmistakable shadow of financial strangulation in my eyes. "You have remarkable operational discipline, Officer Vance," Marcus said quietly, his voice dry and steady. "I've watched hundreds of people work over 40 years. You don't waste a single millimeter of motion, but your energy is completely misaligned." I wiped sweat from my forehead, feeling defensive. "I'm just doing my job, sir." "No," Marcus replied, looking at my hands. "You are using the elite operational precision of a forensic scientist to earn a fixed hourly wage that is being systematically melted away by inflation. And if I am reading those dark circles under your eyes correctly, you are currently drowning in a high-interest debt or tax crisis that your fixed salary can never fix." I froze. A stranger had completely disassembled my secret in 3 sentences. "How do you know that?" I whispered. "Because 15 years ago, I stood exactly where you were standing. The system is designed to keep hard workers on a treadmill. You think money is something you work for by trading hours. You don't realize that money is simply a supply chain problem. If you don't control the distribution pipeline and the cash flow, the system will bleed you dry through taxes and interest." He pulled a small, worn leather notebook from his breast pocket and handed it to me. "Your hands have a skill," Marcus continued, pointing to my neat, manicured fingers, "and your mind has logic. If you want to survive whatever clock is ticking in your life right now, you need to build a local service arbitrage engine. Zero initial capital, high margins, immediate cash flow. Stop selling your time for crumbs. Start packaging your precision as a premium solution." Inside the notebook were hand-drawn diagrams, financial ratios, and 3 distinct phases of wealth building. Phase 1, immediate cash flow generation through local service arbitrage. Phase 2, cash flow allocation using the financial citadel model. Phase 3, wealth preservation via physical gold and dollar-cost averaging into broad index funds. I looked at the notebook, then at Marcus. "I don't have capital to start a business. I can't even get a personal loan because my credit score is on the verge of collapsing." Marcus smiled thinly. "Capital is an illusion created by people who don't understand logistics. You don't need money to make money. You need a pipeline that captures value before you spend a single cent of your own cash." He laid out the blueprint for the local service arbitrage strategy. Instead of opening a traditional salon or driving across town for cheap $30 house calls, I was to package a specialized high-end service, express executive hairstyling and blowout. The target demographic, high-earning, time-starved female executives, corporate attorneys, and tech founders in Austin who needed top-tier styling at their private offices or homes before major presentations, board meetings, or galas. The price tag, $150 for 45-minute session. The mechanism for zero capital was simple but strict. A mandatory 50% upfront deposit collected through an automated booking link through Stripe or Zelle at the moment of scheduling. The client's deposit pays for your high-grade hair products, your fuel, and your software overhead before you ever open your equipment bag, Marcus explained. Your initial capital expense is $0. You're leveraging their liquidity to fuel your operational cash flow. He instructed me to build a clean, minimalist, single-page booking site using a free builder, target localized keywords in affluent Austin zip codes, and leverage local business networks. I took the notebook, but as I walked back to my police cruiser, my deep-seated risk aversion reared its ugly head. "I'm a forensic scientist," I told myself, tossing the notebook into the dark mess of my trunk. "I examine murder scenes. I don't do sales calls or run micro-businesses. This is ridiculous." For 3 days, I ignored it, but the IRS clock didn't care about my pride. Day 14 arrived. The countdown was down to 46 days. Every time my phone rang, my chest tightened so violently I couldn't breathe. Debt collectors were starting to blow up my personal line. The weight was suffocating.
Desperate, I opened my trunk at midnight, retrieved Marcus's notebook, and sat down at my kitchen table. I built the simple booking page. I wrote the script Marcus had provided. I mapped out my operational hours, 5 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. before my police shift, and 6:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. after my shift, plus full days on weekends. Then came the first real test and my first devastating failure. On day 18, a client called asking to book a blowout session for a group of 6 bridesmaids attending a high-profile weekend wedding in downtown Austin. The total job was worth $900. Overwhelmed by the excitement of earning nearly $1,000 in a single morning, I violated Marcus's golden rule. I forgot to enforce the mandatory 50% upfront deposit. I booked them on a verbal promise. I spent $120 of my last remaining cash reserves on specialized luxury finishing sprays and extra hair extensions, driving through a torrential summer downpour at 5 a.m. on Saturday to reach their luxury hotel suite. When I arrived, the suite door was locked. I knocked, no answer. 10 minutes later, I received a cold, indifferent text message. "Hey Annie, so sorry, we ended up getting ready at a salon down the street. Instead, thanks anyway." I stood in the carpeted hotel hallway, holding 2 heavy equipment bags, completely stunned. I had lost $120 in inventory, spent $30 in gas, and wasted 5 critical hours. My net profit was negative $150. I drove to an empty parking lot overlooking the Austin skyline, parked under the roaring thunderstorm, and wept till my throat was raw. The rain pounded against the windshield like a drum. The failure was completely my fault. I had let down my daughter, my career was weeks away from destruction, and I was losing a game I didn't even know how to play. I wiped my eyes, stared at the dashboard, and forced my mind to shift back to my forensic training. When an investigation goes wrong, you don't panic, you analyze the crime scene. My mistake wasn't the market, it was my failure to execute the protocol. I had neglected the risk management framework. I pulled out Marcus's notebook, opened my laptop on the passenger seat, and activated the mandatory 50% upfront deposit setting on my booking system. No deposit, no calendar slot, period. That night, I didn't sleep. I refined my landing page, focusing on absolute reliability and high-speed executive service. By day 25, the pipeline started to move. A senior partner in a corporate law office in downtown Austin booked a 6 a.m. styling session before a major federal court appearance. She paid the $75 deposit up front. I arrived at her office at 5:58 a.m., set up my station with the surgical precision of a crime lab, executed a flawless blowout in 40 minutes, and handed her a sleek business card. She was so impressed by the punctuality and immaculate execution that she forwarded my booking link to her entire network of female corporate litigators.
The word spread like wildfire among Austin's high-earning women who couldn't afford to waste 2 hours sitting in a traditional salon. Money began to flow into my account. $150, $300, $450 a day. Every single dollar that entered my Stripe account was immediately processed through the financial citadel allocation protocol taught by Marcus. 50% went directly into a locked, untouchable escrow account dedicated strictly to the IRS debt. This was my debt avalanche strategy in action, attacking the highest risk liability first. 30% was allocated for lean operational costs, high-grade product replenishment, and minimal living expenses for Chloe and me. 20% was channeled into a high-yield emergency fund to ensure I would never again be forced to make a panicked financial decision under pressure. By day 42, my locked IRS account had accumulated $12,000. I was winning. I could see the light at the end of the long, dark tunnel. The $18,600 target was finally within reach. Then the dark moment struck with brutal, suffocating force. I was driving home late from a night shift at the crime lab when a loud mechanical grinding noise roared from beneath my SUV, followed by a sudden loss of acceleration. Smoke poured from the hood. I pulled onto the shoulder of Interstate 35 in the pitch black of midnight. The diagnosis from the mechanic the next morning was absolute. Transmission failure. Total repair cost $3,200. Without a working vehicle, I couldn't reach my high-paying executive clients across Austin, nor could I commute to my crime lab shifts. To make matters infinitely worse, when I checked my mail that afternoon, a brightly colored certified envelope from the Internal Revenue Service was waiting for me. Final notice of intent to levy. The letter gave me an absolute ultimatum. Settle the remaining balance within 18 days, or the IRS would execute an immediate seizure of all bank accounts, freeze my assets, and issue a mandatory 25% wage garnishment directly to the sheriff's office. I had 18 days. I needed $6,600 to reach $18,600, but now I had a broken vehicle that demanded $3,200 of my precious cash reserves. If I paid for the transmission, I wouldn't have enough to clear the IRS in time. If I didn't pay for the transmission, my local service arbitrage engine would instantly collapse, leaving me unable to earn another dime. I stood in the dusty customer waiting room of the auto repair shop, holding the $3,200 repair estimate in one hand and the IRS final warning in the other. Rain lashed against the glass windows. The walls were closing in, threatening to destroy everything I had fought so hard to rebuild. Doubt roared in my head. My ex-husband's voice echoed in my mind, urging me to give up, file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and accept defeat. I closed my eyes. Stop. Breathe. Tremble. Decide. I looked around the repair shop waiting area. Because it was an elite high-end auto facility specializing in German luxury vehicles, the waiting lounge was filled with wealthy corporate clients, tech executives, and high-net-worth individuals sitting impatiently on leather couches while their vehicles underwent lengthy 4-hour maintenance services. In that moment of absolute desperation, my analytical mind spotted a massive, unaddressed market opportunity right in front of me. These high-earning women were stuck in a waiting room for hours, frustrated by wasted time. I walked straight into the head manager's office. I didn't ask for a loan. I didn't ask for charity. I pitched a business proposition. You have high-value VIP female clients sitting in your lounge for 2 to 4 hours doing nothing, I said, my voice steady and quietly confident. Allow me to set up a mobile high-end VIP grooming and styling station in your private executive lounge. I will offer 45-minute premium blowouts and executive styling while they wait for their cars. You take a 20% commission on every booking, and your dealership provides an unprecedented luxury experience that none of your competitors offer. The manager looked at me astonished by the sheer audacity and logic of the proposal. He agreed on the spot. I offered him a deal on my own car. Hold my vehicle, execute the repair, and deduct the $3,200 repair cost directly from the commission earnings of my station over the next 10 days. He accepted. The result was an absolute explosion of high-margin revenue. Over the next 8 days, I worked non-stop inside the luxury dealership lounge, servicing tech executives, venture capitalists, and high-powered attorneys while their Audis and BMWs were being serviced. My scientific approach to hair care, combined with my intense professionalism, fascinated them. On day 50, a high-ranking News Yamduk Kongye, female tech director, sat in my chair. She was preparing for a massive international product launch and tech summit hosted in downtown Austin that weekend.
Deeply impressed by my speed, precision, and unique background, she looked at me in the mirror and said, "Annie, my current event styling agency just canceled on us. I need a master stylist to manage our entire executive keynote team for 3 days. Can you handle it?" "Yes," I replied without hesitation, under one condition: a top priority corporate retainer paid via direct bank transfer. She signed the corporate agreement that afternoon. Retainer amount $8,500. On day 55 of my 60-day countdown, I logged into my bank portal. The total accumulated cash in my escrow account reached $21,400. With trembling fingers, I executed an immediate online electronic payment to the Internal Revenue Service in the exact amount of $18,600, clearing my back taxes, satisfying the 10% early withdrawal penalty, and extinguishing the tax liability forever. 2 days later, I received the official digital receipt and tax clearance confirmation from the IRS. The threat of wage garnishment was dead. My credit score was saved, instantly jumping back up as the tax lien threat vanished. My security clearance at the sheriff's office remained completely intact. I sat at my kitchen table looking at the official IRS clearance confirmation letter and let out a long, quiet breath that I felt like I had been holding for an entire year. The quiet gratitude washed over my body like a warm wave. That was 18 months ago. Today, my financial life looks completely unrecognizable, built upon the unshakable principles of the financial citadel. I didn't stop once the debt was paid. I took the local service arbitrage engine and scaled it systemically. I standardized my operational procedures, created a rigorous training manual based on my forensic precision, and hired 3 talented junior cosmetologists to execute the client appointments under my brand umbrella. My micro-business now generates a steady semi-passive cash flow of $4,500 per month, running seamlessly without my physical presence during working hours. My fixed salary from the police department no longer disappears into a black hole of high-interest debt. Every dollar is strategically deployed across a well-diversified asset portfolio.
My credit score stands at a pristine 780. My student loans and auto loan have been completely liquidated. Debt ratio, 0. I built a permanent $8,000 emergency fund parked safely in a high-yield savings account, earning high interest, ensuring that no sudden medical emergency will ever threaten my family again. Following Marcus's long-term wealth preservation model, I implement a strict dollar-cost averaging strategy every single month. 50% of my excess profits are allocated directly into physical asset accumulation, building a secure physical gold and bullion portfolio stored in a private bank vault as an absolute inflation hedge against currency degradation and economic volatility. The remaining 50% is automatically funneled into a newly established Roth IRA, fully invested in low-cost S&P 500 index funds. Because it is a Roth account, every dollar of capital growth and compound interest will grow completely tax-free for the rest of my life, securing my eventual retirement without the threat of unexpected tax penalties. My current net worth has crossed $42,000 and continues to compound month after month. Looking back at the nightmare that almost destroyed my life, I realized a fundamental truth about the world we live in. Wealth is not an accident, and financial crisis is not a random curse. The system is a complex set of rules, tax codes, and financial mechanics. If you do not understand the rules, the system will use your ignorance to extract your wealth through high-interest debt, inflation, and penalties. Your greatest asset will never be the size of your current paycheck. Your greatest asset is your mastery over risk management, your ability to control cash flow, and your capacity to convert your personal skills into a resilient financial pipeline. When you understand the mechanics of money, every financial crisis ceases to be a tragedy. It simply becomes a process waiting to be solved.